Hey guys, this is a Thomas ceiling fan, model T5R. Collectors call these Thomas Fascos because they look identical to Fascos in many ways. And there's been some discussion about whether they were made by Fasco or whatnot, or if they were just a copy. And if you've seen a Fasco up close, and you've seen one of these up close, you can tell that a lot of the parts were clearly made by the same machines that made Fasco. The blades, the blade brackets, the flywheels, the switch housing, switch cap, in this case the bottom half of the motor housing, are all identical castings and stamped parts to what Fasco used, and some of them used Fasco motors. This one has a GE motor in it, and we'll get to that later. I guess the only difference in those parts that I neglected to mention is that the blade brackets in these are bent downward, and in Fasco's they're bent up. Otherwise they're the same. But the fact that they used motors other than Fasco motors says to me that they weren't made in the Fasco factory, because Fasco just used their own motors if they were making these fans and then selling them to Thomas to relabel. So I'm guessing that Thomas either bought the parts from Fasco and then motors from whoever and assembled them themselves, or if Fasco didn't do their own castings and their own wood and stuff like that, then Thomas bought the parts from the same plants that Fasco bought their parts from. And so the easy way to figure it out would be to determine, did Fasco make all of their fan parts in-house, or was some of their stuff made at other factories and then they were just assembled in the Fasco factories with Fasco motors? I don't know the answer to that, but that would be the way to determine. So this is unique in a number of ways. First of all, it's got solid oak blades, and those who watch my videos probably know that I am adamantly against oak blades. I much prefer walnut, pecan, teak, other finishes, but I make an exception here. These are gorgeous, and I believe this is the only time I've ever seen oak blades of the Fasco style, so I really like them. The other thing is that this fan is both polished and antique brass. The blade badges, the blade arms, and the downrod are all polished brass. The rest of it is antique. That's something you commonly see on older Fascos, is that they mixed and matched the brass parts. Probably unintentionally, but you see it a lot. Yeah, that's this one. It's got the very low system where you've got high and then variable speed. Uses the same knob as genuine Fascos. This little finial is different than on Fascos, by the way. It's rated at 1 amp. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but nevertheless, let's give it a go. High, low. There's a little bit of dust there. I have not adjusted the low speed trim. This is the factory low speed. 0.34. The 42-inch version of these with the rubber flywheel was a childhood fan for me, and I actually ended up buying the childhood one. There was a garage sale down the street from my parents' house, maybe a couple miles down the street, that they had a garage sale twice a year in a big red painted house, and the woman that hosted it every year knew me because I would always come and look for fans, and she collected antiques and things, so sometimes she'd find like Zero desk fans and stuff, and so I was fanboy. I would bike there. I was probably 4th grade or so, and 5th grade, and I would bike down there, and I was fanboy, and I could see through the window of her house that she had the Thomas Fasco fan in either her, I believe it was her kitchen, it could have been her dining room, and I always looked at it longingly. And then one year I showed up for sale, and there it was out for sale. And so I bought it for 10 bucks and took it back and put it in my parents' kitchen, and it stayed there until the flywheel broke. I don't believe I ever saw this version, the 52-inch version, as a kid. I have memories of seeing parlor fans, and it's possible that what I thought were parlor fans were these, but I don't think so, because I believe they were ornate and had the normal motor housing top. I do like the Fasco blade arms better where they point upward, but I like the canopies on these. I think that's an awesome canopy. It looks very antique. Okay, so that's the low. Which way does it turn? Okay, let's do a quarter turn, because we're That's got a nice smooth turn to it. Like some potentiometers and variable speed controls are very flimsy. That turns like the knob on a fine hi-fi system. Let's do another quarter turn. Do another quarter turn. Oh, we're right at the rated 1 amp, so we got to be pretty close to high. Let's see how close we are to high. Oh yeah, we were almost there. Let's see if it's the same. Where are we at, first of all? 1 amp. And then I go off high, 1.07. So it's just a bit faster. It's a little bit slow compared to some fans of this style. It's moving pretty good air. I'm not good at judging RPM, so I can't tell you where that actually falls. Yeah, it feels pretty good out here. Nice gentle breeze from it out here, as much as any 52-inch residential fan for sure. Okay. Let it spin down. I have a white and brass one of these that I got from another collector years ago, and that was before I was doing videos, so I never assembled it. I don't really have a place to hang white and brass fans. Thought about putting it in my parents' kitchen, but I really didn't want a 52-inch fan there because the kitchen is opposite the dining room with the Terra. The dining room is slightly bigger than the kitchenette, so I wanted to make sure that the fan sizes represented that. The Terra is 52, so I wanted like a 48 essentially in the kitchenette. And I think the Moss WF that's there now actually measures out at about 50. So that's, it's good enough. It's not ideal, but it's good enough. Okay, let's do it in reverse. All the way to low, high, low. 0.34 again. I'm going to turn the blender fan off. This might have a bit of an advantage in the blender fan test with the down rod being longer. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention. This is the first Thomas I've ever seen that has a sheathed down rod like a Casablanca. You know how older Casablancas have that, just that lamp nipple, I think it's 3/8 inch pipe, and then they have a decorative, sometimes spiral, sometimes plain, cover on it. And other brands did that. Homestead did it. Old Jacksonville did it. They weren't the only ones to do it, but they were certainly the ones that... Anyhow, this is that kind of down rod. It's got a smaller galvanized steel pipe inside, and then the polished brass part is just decorative. But it's 1/2 inch. It's the first time I've ever seen that with 1/2 inch. And it's definitely the first time I've seen it on a Thomas. And the down rod mounts to the motor in a way that I've only seen on Homesteads. It screws into a flange, and then the flange screws to the motor with 4 screws, and the part of the motor that the flange screws to is part of the top end bell. So it's cast into the end bell. So let's do quarter turn. And I can, when it stopped, I can actually show you on top there. I think I can pretty easily reach up there, given that the fan is hanging so low. But yeah, I was going to just put a shorter down rod on it, and then I realized that I have no other down rod that would fit that. So, I mean, something could be rigged for sure. Put a different type of flange on there, or, there's certainly options, but... And I guess we'll do first with the variable speed, 1 on the nose like it was before. 1.07. Keeping a close eye on the blender fan. It's moving, but it's not spinning. Like the blades are moving up and down a little bit. Somebody who watches all my videos comment and tell me, has any fan ever passed the blender fan test besides Islanders? Is that just an Islander thing? If so, we'll have to stop doing the test, because it's Okay. So I did a video last night where I showed hanging the half-pipe 1940s fluorescent fixture over the air compressor. I was doing that because I did that because I was up there fixing changing the furnace filter, and then I replaced a rusted out pipe on the furnace, and I finished that today. So if you saw that video with that unfinished, it's now finished. So let's try this with some controls. Oh, I guess first I can show you the top of the motor. Let's see how good that gets with this. Is that a screw? There's a screw going through the housing. Fascos don't have that. Fascos have screws here. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see. If you can see, then you know what I'm talking about. If you can't see, I tried. Okay, so let's reverse it. Every time I say that, I always think of Missy Elliott. This is the Fasco 4-speed control. 0.26 on low. That should be a pretty classy low. Those oak blades are really nice. I didn't even put any polish on them or anything. That's just... This is an example, by the way. I was thinking earlier, because there was a heated Facebook discussion about packing and shipping fans. Let's go up to medium-low. 0.54. And I was thinking earlier I should do a how-to video in packing and shipping fans. Only problem is there's a lot of different ways to pack them. I sometimes pack them differently every time I ship them based on what materials I have and what size box I have and what size the various fan parts are. So just because I do it one way in the video doesn't mean that's the way you have to do it. Go medium-high. There are a lot of right ways to do it and even more wrong ways to do it. So, but I was gonna say, because I was thinking in that discussion, I didn't have a chance to post it, but okay, medium-high, and then for reference, high. This is a great range, actually. Like that medium-high is exactly what I would call a medium-high. It's a really great range. This is GE motors and 4-speed controls were made for each other. Okay, let's prop the phone up so we can continue. So, yeah, I was gonna post in that thread, but I ran out of time because I'm trying to do as much as I can here, and there's just been so much going on, and etc., etc. That despite everything that everyone is saying about the proper ways to pack and ship, which for most part I agree with, every so often you pack something perfectly correctly and it still arrives damaged, and just as often you pack something horribly and it somehow manages to survive. I've had it happen countless times where somebody has shipped me a fan or some other, fragile thing, some other thing I've purchased, and they shipped it to me with basically, like this. This is the example I was going to give you. This came in a box today. Motor was in one box, blades were in another, which helps. This was in a box where the motor was sitting face down in a box that was only slightly bigger than the motor, switch housing right against the bottom of the box, and then the canopy was off to one side touching the motor. I have no earthly idea how it wasn't destroyed, but all that seemed to happen is the switch housing is slightly bent. It's ever so slightly bent to the point that I'm not even sure if I'm going to try to bend it back. I haven't yet. Okay, this is the Emerson 4-speed. 0.19 is going to give us a great low. So yeah, just because you had something arrive that was packed poorly and it arrived without damage doesn't mean that that's how you should pack something, because every so often you get lucky, and then of course every so often the opposite happens. I shipped something to a good friend of mine recently, and I packed it. I pack my stuff really well, if I do say so myself, and I packed it as well as I always do, and it arrived with the blade brackets broken, which is insane. Like, the first thing that gets broken is something on the motor, the switch housing. The housing gets dented, the housing comes apart, the down rod gets bent if they were dumb enough to leave it attached. You know, there's all kinds of things that can get broken on the motor. Once I've had blades arrive broken, but in my lifetime, blade brackets being broken, that's insane. So, and it was well packed. And apparently FedEx opened the box to inspect it for whatever reason, and this is medium-low, by the way, 0.36. And then when they put it back together again, they just put the blade brackets in the bottom of the box and set the motor on top of them. So, you know, I mean, that wasn't necessarily, you know, if they'd left the box alone, I'm sure they would have arrived intact. Okay, medium-high, 0.58. But even so, I mean, that can happen to anyone. All the shipping companies open, you know, every whatever box. I don't know what the, you know, what the reasons are. High for reference. You know, shipping companies open whatever. You know, I don't know if there's an algorithm they use, like if the box weighs this much or looks like this, we have to inspect it, or if it's just like every 10th box they inspect, or every 50th. I don't know what it is. Yeah, so, I mean, that can happen to anyone. I've had a lot of my stuff that's been opened and repacked by FedEx. This has usually been stuff that's been sent to me, and either the box got damaged or they didn't pack it well to the point that even FedEx was like, this is bad. So, I also have a very conscientious FedEx driver who, if he happens to be loading up my boxes, you know, for his morning route, and he sees that one of them is in rough shape, he'll tell them to repack it because he knows it's going to me, which is really awesome. Okay. Even though it has a variable speed control in the fan, because I didn't adjust the low speed trim, I have the variable speed control hooked up now just so we can kind of see where we're at in the world of low speediness. We're at 0.1, 0.11, 0.12, 0.13. Looks like we're moving. GE motors are my favorite stack / K55 type motors because they, first of all, they're incredibly powerful. They're as powerful as a K55 or K63 or anything else. You know, they may be the most powerful, save for some of the huge, overpowered K63s. But you can also get really insane low speeds with GE. Like, I don't know if this is going to stall out or not, but if it didn't, it wouldn't surprise me because it's a GE motor. So yeah, like if you have the option, like some fans like Homesteads, Terras, they use Emerson and GE motors interchangeably. There are advantages. The Emersons run a little cooler. You know, there's definitely advantages to the Emerson, but I'm always happy when I see a GE motor. Yeah, I think this is going to go. I made it a point to make sure that I brought my water up here, but I don't see it. It's 49 degrees up here, but it feels freezing. I don't know why. It's been a lot colder than that. I don't know why I'm so cold. Yeah, it's going to keep going. This is the low speed. This is 0.13. Is it going to stall now? Nope. Just when I think it's going to stop, it doesn't. Well, I'm going to bump it up a little bit, because otherwise we'll be here watching this forever, which I could do. I mean, that's just so ridiculous of a low speed. I can't believe it's still going. It hasn't stalled out once. GE, you are awesome. Okay, let's do 0.14. I'm just going to inch it up. 0.14. You can tell it's a hair faster, but still insanely slow. By the way, when I got this, there were balloons stuck both between the flywheel and the motor, and the flywheel and the switch housing. And so I got as many balloon pieces out as I could without taking it apart, and then I gave it the old treatment. That's 0.14. 0.15. I'm gonna stop when I get to .26, which was the speed we saw with the Fasco control. 0.16. 0.17. Silent, by the way. GE motors are usually silent with variable speed too. I love them so much. 0.18. Oh no, we saw 0.18 with the, I'll go up to 0.12, because we saw 0.18 with the Emerson 4-speed. 0.19, yep, there it is. Wavered a little bit, but it's there. And 0.2. That's 0.2. So now I'm going to go up 1/8 of a turn, 0.36, which is right around where the factory low is. Oh, it dropped to 0.34, which is exactly where the factory low was. Another 1/8 of a turn, 0.58. Silent. Another 1/8 of a turn, 0.86. Another 1/8 of a turn high. So yeah, I would totally use this on a variable speed wall control or a 4-speed wall control. This fan is awesome. I love you, GE motor. I love you so much. So that's that one. I hope you like it. I really got to get an ornate parlor fan and do a video of that. I have a brass ornate one, but I need an antique brass one because antique brass is the winner of finishes. I don't remember if I mentioned it or not. This is made in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, which is maybe 40 minutes from here. My friend Kevin, who showed up in the one of the Sidewinder videos, grew up in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. They have a Habitat store that I've been to a few times, and they've never once had anything good, so I usually don't include it on my routes unless I have extra time. But of course, the one time I skip it will be the time they have a World's Fair or something. Okay, thanks for watching.